what would Aristotle say about the strong need for authority by the Pope to have authority over so many other people?
Yeah, it's a problem. Papacy, I mean, looked historically, it always came across as an abuse of power, in a sense that, of course, you need to have a strong church, you need a centralized government, but it lays a very heavy burden on one man and on his moral character, that he uses that power in the right way. And historically, many times, the popes would then abuse that power and for the gain of the church. So that, in other words, since you mentioned Aristotle, it's one of the major goals in philosophy to define how human happiness can come about. And Aristotle, in his Ethics, he wrote several books on that, but he would dedicate one book in his Ethics on the theory of happiness. And in that explanation, he says, power over others does never contribute to human happiness. So we may think, I have all this influence about all these people, I can control them. But power over others would not allow to have happiness for all. And happiness is a universal gift. Everybody should reach happiness. But if only a few can have power over others, only these few can have happiness, it won't allow others to have that happiness in an alternate sense. So there was the argument of Aristotle. So in a sense, what we learn from that is to be very careful about hierarchical governments and how the papacy acted throughout history as an illustration of keeping the power of the church in place at the cost of human freedom or self-determination, and in that sense, Protestants would just stand up against that and say we want to preserve individual freedom, self-determination, creativity, and that's this part of the agenda. He's at least some understanding how we could overcome past abuses and would say, okay, if the Pope can still be the representative of the Catholic Church, but he can make active moves to reach out to the Protestant brothers and sisters and overcome any kind of abusive form of hierarchical exercise of power.
So to create a paradigm where there could be this kind of unity, where the body of Christ could be unified, reconciled, where the Protestants could feel comfortable and also the Vatican could feel comfortable.
The Pope could say, I lead the Catholic Church as pares inter pares. I acknowledge other Christian leaders as my brothers, and I would cooperate with them. And we all acknowledge our higher goal to bring the gospel to mankind, to renew society. If you're united on those issues, we can easily overcome our historical divisions.
Both the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Anglican Church, the Church of England, also known as the Episcopal Church, they seem to be closest in spirit and tradition to the Roman Catholic Church. What role can they play toward fostering reconciliation between Roman Catholicism and Protestantism?
The first step is if you look at the Orthodox churches. And the interesting thing with the Orthodox churches, as you may know, in 1054 we had a great schism where there was a mutual excommunication between the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Pope. And that historical event was more recently nullified by forgiving each other, that the Pope and the Patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church would actually acknowledge their wrongdoing in past history and forgive each other and embrace each other. So in a sense, the Orthodox and the Catholics, they are moving closer to each other, and they would acknowledge the deeper brotherhood. And of course, there are many churches of an Eastern Rite who are within the Catholic Church. So within the Catholic Church, you do have married priests then, because Eastern Rite you can marry. Only the bishops are not allowed to marry in the Eastern Rite. So that's one step. And then, interesting enough, Orthodox churches always have a concern about ecumenism. They really care about bringing Christians together, and so especially then can be a bridge to the Catholics. Now with the Anglicans, as we know, Henry VIII was a staunch Catholic, right? He was the ruler of England, and he wanted to study for the priesthood. He was really into church doctrine and defending the church. And when Luther came in 1517, Henry VIII was the first one to denounce Luther, and he received the title Defender of the Faith from the Pope. So the Pope praised this monarch who stood up for the Catholic Church. But then as time moved on, as we know the story, he didn't have a male heir, and he asked for an annulment for his marriage, and the Pope wouldn't give it to him. So then Henry VIII became the head of the English Church. So the same Catholic Church, just instead of the Pope, the British monarch became the head, right? So that was the situation. So in other words, the Anglican Church was always more Catholic than any other Protestant denomination. So from that point of view, the Anglican or the Episcopal Church outside of England would have definitely a better position to be in a mediating position based on this historical precedents and the historical development. Yeah.